He has done marvelous things, right? In Pastor's absence, he told me to let you guys know he appreciates everything that we're doing. He appreciates the prayers. He appreciates our supplication. We're sitting up for him and for First Lady and for the family. And we have to continue to do that for one another. Because everybody needs somebody. And we as a church family have to come together. If we can't come together in a time like this, we can't never come together. This is the time we come together and we unite. And we continue to pray continuously. And this Lord was working with me with this verse. It's a well-known verse. We all have used it at some point in time in our lives. It's actually my favorite verse. But when I actually got into studying this, I wanted to understand what it truly meant. Because sometimes we read scripture and we say, yeah, that's my verse. I'm going to apply that to my life, but really don't know what it really means. We don't take the heart in consideration of what he's actually saying in that verse. So if you have your Bibles, you go with me to Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. You got it? I'm going to read to you from the New King James Version, and I'm also going to read to you from the NIV, because the meaning is the same, but the language is kind of different, so it gives you a different understanding of what it truly means. New King James says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. The NIV says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Languages are different, but it means the same. I want to talk to you about dealing with difficult times. Dealing with difficult times. Like I said, this is one of my favorite verses. I chose it. Well, God actually applied it to me, so This is a verse that I said we most often tell somebody else. You know, trust in the Lord. Don't lean on your own understanding. But we all know that life holds no punches when it comes at you. Life holds no punches when it comes to knock you down. Now, how we deal with those punches isn't necessarily what defines us. What defines us is how we allow it to change our beliefs and our faith. When things in our lives get overbearing to handle or understand, we must turn to God and let him ultimately take control of the situation. You may have heard the familiar slogan, when the going gets tough gets going. What about when life gets hard, pick up a bat and swing hard? Nobody ever heard that one? I heard that one. Well, those slogans may sound good from a worldly view. But how do they help us deal with our interspiritual view of how to deal with difficult times? How can they help us to understand what we're going through? How can they help us to cope with what we're going through? How can they give us an answer to an unanswered question? Well, the truth is, when we are faced with difficult times, we must operate in the presence of trust and faith in the Lord, for his mercy and grace are new every day. Desmond Tutu, his name is Tutu. The first black Archbishop of Cape Town and Bishop of the Church in Province of South Africa wrote this. Hope is being able to see there is light, despite all the darkness. He said, hope is being able to see there is light, despite all the darkness. Well, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said something like this. Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the staircase. We are all dealing with something that may be weighing on us. We're all dealing with something that might be pressing on us or have us in a moment of despair. or we know somebody that's going through something that we want to help them, but we can't find the right answer or the right things to help them with. We can't find a medium to be able to help them through their pain or through what they're going through. Well, King Solomon shares with us wisdom and insight as to what we can do or what we need to do when we're faced with difficult times. So go with me in the text and we see King Solomon gives us 4 principles as to what to do and what to turn when we're dealing with difficult times. First, he says we must trust God unconditionally. So we must trust God unconditionally. King Solomon, with all his wisdom, knew that trust was still an issue at his time. He knew that trust was going to be an issue in the future because it's not easy to do so. In all his God-given wisdom, he began to write, "Trust in the Lord." Now, before we can move on any further, we must first examine truly and understand the precepts of what it means to trust. And then what it means to trust God unconditionally. You see, the word trust derives from the Greek word pistuvo. Y'all said it with me? Pistuvo. Y'all don't be Greek. Y'all don't learn some Greek. Which means to believe, to trust in, to have faith in, to have confidence in. So having trust in God cannot and should not be conditional. Meaning we cannot treat God like we treat each other. You know how we treat each other. Our trust depends on how the other person treats us. And then even we give them a condition on that. We give them a little trust here, a little trust. They have to earn more and more and more and more. We can't treat God like that. He deserves more of our trust than that. But God's supreme and divine sovereignty demands more of us. Now, this trust in itself is more so of us renouncing our sole reliance on self and putting our reliance on the Father in heaven himself. You see, most of us in our lifetime may have experienced or faced disappointment. We may have been in bad relationships. We may have been in situations where our trust was very damaged. So now the next relationship we get in, or the next person we want to call a friend, we give them conditions. Right? I trust you to a certain extent. We heard that phrase, I trust you as far as I can throw you. And many of us can't throw nobody that far, so the trust really ain't that good. But we also have said that, at one point or another, that ain't nobody got my back with me. I ain't trust nobody but myself. I'm my own friend. You see, these slogans and these ideologies that we have in ourselves just shows our own self-confidence of self. It eliminates our self-awareness of the Father. That's why our trust lacks it. You see, notice how we place our faith and trust in what the world tells us and what the world sells us. The world can tell you that the earth is flat. Earth is round, and you believe it. The world can tell you that we all need to get like 13 shots as babies. We all believe it. The world can tell you that there's a hurricane going on. We don't got no FEMA markets at Walmart. We don't got no underground tunnels, but you believe it. Whatever the TV tells you, it sells you, we believe it. A preacher can get on TV and tell you a million things, and you think it's doctrine. But what about God? The Bible tells us we can't do this or we shouldn't do that, and we question it. That's why our trust lacks that. King Solomon said, trust in the Lord. Means to trust in him unconditionally. But we begin to place conditions on our trust in a way that it gives a sense of protection or comfort knowing that we didn't go all the way in. Just in case our trust was broken, we can say, hey, I didn't trust them all the way. Hey, I knew they were going to fail me one day, so I had to hold something back for myself. But we cannot do that to the Father in heaven. You see, when it comes to trusting God unconditionally, this means faith in a more condensed and consistent way. We have to be like Abraham was when God told him, take your son, your only son, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I tell you about. You see, Abraham didn't hesitate to go do what God told him to do.
Right.
He got up and took his only son at the blink of an eye. Without a doubt, without a question. I don't know about you, but that would be kind of hard for me to do.
Yeah.
But that's the trust and faith he had in him, knowing that God was not going to sacrifice his only son. And second, that God had promised him already that I'm going to make your descendants as numerous as the stars. So how you going to do that? You're going to take my only son that you just gave me.
Right.
That's where the trust factor comes in at. Trusting God means surrendering to his will, even if the outcome is not what we expect it to be.
All right.
But sometimes trusting him completely like this can be a little tough. It can be tough. So each day we must consistently lay aside our own plans and expectations and surrender to the will of the Father in all things. Because tough times are coming, and they will come. Like I said, some of us are dealing with them as we speak. We must release our anxiety and trust in the one who has never failed us. Amen. And who has always sustained us.
Amen.
We have to keep our focus and our faith in God no matter what. And not let the circumstance of this world rock us to a point where we do not trust in the Father who created us. Amen. So the first principle is that we must trust God unconditionally. The second principle is that we must recognize that we cannot expect to understand everything on our own. We cannot expect to understand everything on our own. Because we must recognize that we cannot expect to understand everything. It was not meant for us to understand everything. Moreover, simply put, we cannot allow our faith to be hindered by reliance upon human wisdom, whether our own or somebody else's. You see, Satan's first bait to Eve was when he tricked her and he offered her wisdom. Mm-hmm. And not only he offered to Adam, because he stood there and listened and watched. Both of them sold their faith at that moment. Right. You shall be gods, he said, knowing both good and evil. And from that time, they began to know, but then they ceased to trust. The word lean here means to support yourself, signifying that we are to support ourselves on the Father who is in heaven. You see, Satan has a way of attacking our very essence of foundation of trusting in the Father. Satan has a way of reaching to us and telling us false secrets and false doctrine about what's really real and what's true. He knew by going to Eve and telling Eve and Adam that, God don't want you to eat off this tree because you're going to be like God. But if they really thought about it, God said you can have of every tree in the garden except the tree of good and evil. But he also said, and the tree of life was there. Mm-hmm. Now, a smart person would say, well, I would have ate the tree of life and would have lived forever. But see, after they ate of the tree and they knew better, God kicked them out of the garden, and what he did, he put a cherry bomb around the tree of life. Because now they were in a damaged condition. Mm-hmm. Everything is not for us to know. Everything is not meant for us to know. When they started to build the Tower of Babel, what did God say? These people are doing evil things. Because we are so eager to try to know so much. We're so eager to try to know how to be like God. Mm-hmm. We're so eager to try to take the reins of what God does. We're so eager to say, take a step in God's shoes and lead. And God is telling us, you need to sit back and let me take control of the situation.
Well.
If you want me to deal with it, you need to sit back and let me have the wheel. Right. We can't let Satan pull the wool over our eyes and sell us false secrets, helping us think that we're gods. I once heard some friends of mine up in New York, they always call each other, hey, your God, your son. I'm like, man, you ain't no God, you ain't no son. We said that's the secret that we tell each other. Sometimes we allow the devil to preach to us in a way in our culture. And so you see that your culture saying that all black people are gods. Because it reached to your culture to tell you that this is the white man's Bible. This is not God's word. But God is telling you, don't fall for what false knowledge. He used King Solomon to tell you to trust in him. Yeah. And don't rely on your own understanding. Mm-hmm. Some things that you might not understand are not meant for you to understand. Because God is forever working in the back scenes. Some things you won't even see. Take, for example, the past month, we just experienced a total eclipse. Totality. This hasn't happened in 99 years. The first one since 99 years, it was a remarkable event. But notice, not more than 2 weeks later, we experienced damaging hurricanes. We experienced Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma. We did it with Hurricane Josie, Hurricane Katie, and a new one, I forgot what his name, Hurricane Jesse or something that's coming out. And then you did it with an 8.1 earthquake. You did it with tsunamis. And over on the west, you did it with fires. Sister said this is what God is speaking. But everything is not meant for you to understand. So you want to understand, how can God show us something so remarkable as this beautiful eclipse? Then 2 weeks later, we see people losing their homes and people going through damaging stuff. People who trust in God, people who have faith in Him, they're losing everything they got. How can God do this to them? It ain't meant for you to understand. God is sovereign in everything that He does. He is forever the creator. So what you see is not what He sees. He sees farther than what we can comprehend. We have to let loose and let Him be God. We cannot be God and be Derrick at the same time. That's where we fall. We must recognize God's sovereignty still reigns over all creation. And there's a saying that goes, the teacher is always quiet during the test. So when you see people going through a test, don't think that God is not there. Maybe God is working in their lives, but the Bible tells us God works everything out for those who love Him. So we have to trust that God forever loves us. And His word says that He is always faithful. So how can we not trust in Him? How can my understanding surpass His? I can study this Bible over and over and over and over. I would never, ever be able to comprehend the wisdom of God. My wife, I was asking why I watch movies over and over and over. Same movie over and over and over. Because I said, it's something in that movie that you're going to miss the first time because you're too busy paying attention to the main character. You read the Bible, sometimes we miss what the secrets that God is telling us because we're too busy paying attention to the main character. And we're not getting the full meaning of His blessings of what He's trying to feed us. So when we hear this scripture, trust in the Lord, lean on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge Him, we take the surface value of it and not understanding the deeper root value of what it really means. It means to let go. Trust in God with all your heart. The Bible tells us wherever your heart is, there lies your treasure. Trust in Him with all your heart. You cannot put conditions on God's trust. Because if He really wanted to give us what we actually deserve, I don't think we all want that right now. One thing to note is that God's wisdom and knowledge surpasses ours. Do we think that Abraham did not think in the back of his mind, God, what are you doing? I'm about to take my other son, Do we not think that Job said the same thing? Lord, you just took everything from me in one fell swoop. But as Job did and as Abraham did, they stood faithful and firm in their disasters. We can't let Satan come over and pull the wool over our eyes. So, like I say, it's going to be hard. Nothing is easy in this life. But trusting in God, that's the easy part. In Sunday school, we were talking about how Pharaoh's heart was hardened. We do the same thing to God without trust in our faith. We harden our heart toward Him. We don't want to give Him our all. We feel that He might not be real or He might be real. Why trust in something that I can't see? But I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a word about something you can't see. You see, it said the eyes are the windows to the soul. God knows your vision and your eyes are what attracts your sin. He knows your vision and your eyes are what attracts your sin. And I'm about to explain this to you because if you look at the garden, it says that they saw the fruit was good and they ate. He tells men not to lust after anything you see. Because after you lust after anything you see, now it becomes in memory. It becomes in memory, now it comes in thought. Now it becomes in thought, now it becomes in dream. Now it becomes in dream, now it becomes in action. He knows your vision is the windows to the soul. So He tells you it's better for you to pluck your eye out than for the whole body to burn. It's your vision. So we can't go by everything we see on TV. It's your vision. Blind men, their senses are so in height because they have to trust in their other senses. Jesus once said, better for those who have not seen me than for those who see me. Because they believed in him because they saw him. But they still didn't trust in him. So how are we that much different? But we have seen the miracles in our lives over and over that God has brought us through. We have seen God put money and food on our tables when we didn't have anything. We've seen God put jobs in our path when we didn't know what direction we were going to go into. We've seen God bring us from sickness, from sick beds when we would thought that I don't understand what I'm dealing with. So why not trust in him? Romans 8:28 says, and we know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose. Simply put, we must depend on his divine knowledge and depend on him in all things. Because after all, he knows what's best for us. James puts it this way. He says, if any one of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. Just ask God. You want to know? Ask him. But when you ask him with an open heart and a trusting heart, an unconditional trusting heart, and he will give you the answers to your questions. But the only way you're going to find him if you pick up his word. Amen. You're not going to find it on TV. You're not going to find it from one of the pastors that's preaching. You're not going to find it from one of the reality shows that's selling preachers under the roof. You're not going to find it there. You have to trust in his word. You have to cut your TV out, get in your quiet room, open up this book, start applying it to your life. Amen. Now this doesn't mean that we are not to use our own understanding. He didn't say don't use your own understanding. That'd be crazy. Right. But he's saying when you do use your own understanding, use it in the measure that you ask God for understanding, that he gives you the wisdom to understand. So you can apply your understanding through his understanding. Yeah. Did y'all get that? Yeah. He's not telling you that you can't try to understand, but before you try to understand, go to him first so he can help you understand. So the first principle is we must trust God unconditionally. And the second is we must recognize that we cannot expect to understand everything on our own. The third principle is we must recognize that no matter what, God is ultimately in control. No matter what. That's the key. No matter what. Whether you get what you want, whether the circumstance it turns out to be the way you want it to be, no matter what, God is ultimately in control. All the disasters we're facing right now, God is ultimately in control. Now this may be far more the most repeated phrase by Christians, especially from the form of encouragement, because we all tell each other that, hey, don't worry about it, God is in control. No matter what you're going through, just remember, God is in control. But it's hard for that person that's going through to receive that. Right. And for that concept to sink in because the pain is going over them right now. Right. They can't focus on what you're really telling them. They hear you, but sometimes that devastation is too much to overbear. Right. That's where the trust comes in at. That's when you lay your burden on the altar and you say, Lord, help me with this. Yeah. Because if you try to do it on your own, you're not going to survive it. God is ultimately in control. Amen. But we have to know that God has all power in his hands. But we seem to forget that when we are going through that, the tough times and situations that overburden us, we let them drag us down. King Solomon's emphatic emphasis on acknowledging God to see that he is there and know that he is there. When we lose sight of him being there, that's when we think we're on our own. Right. That's when we try to take the wheel and try to drive ourselves. King Solomon wants us to understand that we have to acknowledge God. Not just when he blesses us in the good times, but we have to acknowledge him in our time of suffering, in our time of sickness, in our time of weakness. He says, in all your ways, acknowledge him. To acknowledge God is to therefore to recognize the dealings and undertaking of this life and recognize God's overruling providence. Meaning we have to recognize that God has the power. God has the wisdom. God is goodness. And he has justice.
Right.
Recognize that God controls all those things. And he uses all those things to work out and shape us. So when we're going through, each and every one of us are being shaped. Because he's getting us ready for a better place. In order to get you ready for a better place, it's like a diamond that's stuck in coal. The coal has to be shaped off of it. And the diamond is not pretty as you see in people's rings right now. It has rough edges. It's not sharpened. Some of them has flaws. So when he sands it, that's what you're going to do, the sanding. Because he's making you a smooth surface right now. Now you're a smooth surface, you can be used according to his purpose and his will. That's when you trust in him. You let go and you let him control the situation. Take, for example, Isaiah 14:24. The Lord of hosts has sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so it shall come to pass. And as I have purposed, so it shall stand. You see, nothing God does is random. It comes by chance.
Right.
Especially not in the lives of believers. He purposed it. Come on, say it with me. He purposed it.
He purposed it.
That means he intentionally did it for a reason.
Right.
And the catch is you don't understand that reason. But he did it for a reason. This means he deliberately decided to do something. God has decided to do what he will do, and nothing or no one will stand in his way. This is our powerful, purposeful God who is in control of everything. This is the song says, and we teach little kids, he has the whole world in his hands.
Right.
That's the first song we learned. Like welcome to church. But we have to take that little simple song and apply it to our everyday life.
Right.
No matter what's going on over on the West Coast, no matter what's going on over here in Mexico, he has the whole world in his hands. How many have seen Bruce Almighty? He wanted to be God so bad, didn't he? So he heard all those voices in his head. He could control. He could answer every prayer. But then he tried to do a cheat code. He tried to sit there and set up an automatic thing and let everybody get what y'all want. Now, if we all got what we want, what would happen? Chaos. God is ultimately in control. We have to consent and be willing to give God our all and let go. Because if we don't, we're just like Bruce Almighty. We want to be God. We're just like Pharaoh. We want to be God. And when two wills clash, God's will ultimately is going to win. Now, as I take a look at my life, I can remember God leaving breadcrumbs in my life, that he laid down for me to follow. I've been through a lot of heartache. I've been through a lot of pain. And it was all because I was trying to be God. I was trying to live my life my way. Nobody can tell me nothing, and God can't tell me nothing. Whatever I want to do, I was going to do it. And then, but the same person that did it, I was still up in the church, saying, God, you have the will. But on my own, I was still doing Derrick.
Right.
God, you got the will. Hey, God bless you. Give me this, give me that. But I was still doing Derrick. And God said, no, I don't have the will. You drive on your own.
Right.
We've all been in cars and we try to teach our teenagers how to drive cars. How quickly do we grab that wheel? When that first swerve happens, how quickly do you grab, you press the invisible brakes that ain't there? But God has a way of bringing you through. Because he says that he will always be there for you. You trust in him, he will be there for you. And he says in the book of Jeremiah, declares the Lord, he says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and to not harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. So when you're going through and you're thinking that you're thinking that everything is tough and it's hard and nobody's around, nobody's there for you, or God is absent, He has a plan. We see all the chaos in the world today. Believe God has a plan.
Yes.
Like I said, we were studying Exodus today. These are not the plagues. This is the beginning. These are birth pains. Did He not tell us this already? But you won't know this if you don't pick up His word and study it. You won't know it. You let people tell you it's a coincidence. You let people tell you some scientific thing, it's because of the eclipse, it's swift to earth. Yeah, that might be true. But He has a plan. He holds the world in His hands. He is the one twisting and controlling what you see. You see, I'm not the only one here. We all have same similar story, but we've been through tough times in our lives. And at our darkest hour, we felt that we had nobody to turn to. But we must hold on to knowing that our God is sovereign and that He is mighty and He is good in all His ways.
Right.
Don't let your hardships that we face or that we are facing deter us from believing in the one who controls it all. Because He controls it all. We're praying right now for First Lady. Don't let your prayers just be prayers of I'm going to get this out of the way. Let it be prayers of reciting saying, Lord, I need you to hear my cry. Because I know that you got control. I know that you raised Lazarus from the dead. I know that you raised Jesus from the dead. I know that you have given me life. I know that you chose to pick me to be on this earth. I know that my life has a purpose. You have to know this. And by knowing this, you're acknowledging Him. You're trusting in the Lord with all your heart. In all your ways, you're starting to acknowledge Him. And lastly, as we go through, it says the fourth principle is we must recognize that God's directions come second to none. His direction comes second to none. Let's look at the B part of verse 6. He says, in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path. Now, He didn't say, in all your ways acknowledge the world, and the GPS shall direct your path. Now, He didn't say, in all your ways acknowledge your friends, and Pookie and Ray Ray, they're going to tell you how to get there. No, he didn't tell you that. What He said is, in all your ways acknowledge me. He didn't tell you to acknowledge BT or Derrick TV and stay on the other big road and you'll be all right. No. What He said is, in all your ways acknowledge me. He's saying that we cannot rely on any direction but that of the Father in heaven. He sees beyond what we can see.
Right.
For example, we want to keep God in the driver's seat at all times in our lives. It's only when we decide to take the wheel that we begin to steer off course. How many of us have ever been to a store and bought something and we had to assemble it, we had to put it together? Everything comes with instructions. But we, especially us as men, we take that instruction book, I don't need this, and throw that to the side. We look at the box itself. Look at the box itself. I can put it together by watching this box. This leg go here, this leg go there, this leg go here. Okay, these screws go here. Now I got extra screws. I don't know what this goes to. They gave me too many. They wait your screws. But your picture, and you hold it up to the box. It don't look nothing like the box. And you're wondering, is it a defect? You want to take it back to Walmart and say, hey, this ain't right. Then now you won't see like me. I'm smart. I tell them, you got to come and sell this for me. Especially if it's something big. See, that's what we do. We're not listening to God's direction. We're starting to listen to our own direction. You see, following direction isn't always something we feel that we need to do. But contrary to popular belief, whoever tried to shoot a shotgun without knowing proper instructions on how to hold it? I've done it, but I had instructions on how to hold it. Try shooting a shotgun without somebody teaching you probably how to hold it in your shoulder.
Not good.
You will end up in the hospital very quick.
Not good.
And see, that's what I want you to understand. We're trying to shoot a shotgun in this world without proper instructions, without following God's instructions. We're trying to hold the world in our hands that we have no control over. Now the world, the people we do have control over are our kids, but it's limited control. But we have the limited control. We have to teach them according to what God is teaching us. And then when they do stray away, we have to turn it over to the Father. Let the Father take control. And that's why a lot comes in that, but we are not letting God take control of the situation and let God work. Because when we let him work, miracles do happen. Blessings do happen. God's sovereignty, and then he will get his glory, whether you want to give it to him or not. As Christians, we must allow God to lead us in all that we do, especially in difficult times. God wants to point out the easy way for us, but sometimes we want to take the hard way. But we have to humble ourselves and receive his divine guidance. We have to cry out, teach me your way, O Lord, that I may rely on your faithfulness. Give me an undivided heart that I may fear your name. And when we do this, he himself will make our path straight. He will make your path straight. Removing all obstacles out of our ways. Just as it's written in the book of Jeremiah, it is not in man to direct his steps. You see, God has already told you over and over and over and over. It ain't for you to understand. It ain't for you to direct your steps. It ain't for you to do anything. It was never meant for that in the beginning. It was meant for us to always rely on him. Because when Adam and Eve were in the garden before the fall, they had nothing to worry about. They were relying on the Father. But once we step out of that box and want to know everything, when we step out of that box and want to be, have a say in everything that God has put in ordination, now we're putting on God's shoes. Now we're saying that God, you step aside, let me do this. Somebody else already got in trouble trying to do that. Let us not forsake who God is. Let us not forget that he sent his only son to die on the cross for us, for our sins. See, he had a plan. Adam was the first one who caused the sin and brought death into the world. But he had a plan. Jesus was the second Adam who brought life into the world. You see, he had a plan. The Nephilim came down and slept with the women in the world and tried to poison the seed so Jesus could never be born. But see, he had a plan. Jesus came to a virgin birth. And Joseph didn't want to marry Mary because he thought that she had cheated on him. So he thought that she was unworthy. But the angel came and spoke to him saying, hey, this is going to be the son's going to give life. See, he had a plan. Amen. See, Joseph had to marry Mary in order for Jesus to still be in David's bloodline. See, he had a plan. Right. See, God told David that I'm going to put your son, your son on a throne forever. See, he had a plan. You see, you got to understand, God is always working, no matter what. You see, when David was running from King Saul, David was fearing for his life. But David David knew not to touch God's anointing. Because God had already instilled in him the fear. See, we don't fear God the way we need to be. When I was a kid, we were growing up, they told you to fear God. We should be scared of God. Well, somehow or another, between ages 1 through ages, I say 10, God becomes somebody else. It becomes Superman or what's that man? I'm thinking his name, the Christmas guy. I call him that. Because I play him, Santa Claus. See the Christmas guy. That's what God becomes. He becomes Santa Claus. He becomes a myth. He becomes something that we don't believe in. You know, my mom and dad told me this, you know, Santa Claus is real, the Easter Bunny is real, God is real. You know, they tell you all that in one fell swoop. Now you get older, Santa Claus ain't real, the Easter Bunny ain't real, but God ain't real. You see, we start losing ourselves. And once we get that inkling of understanding that God is not real, that's when we step in God's shoes and want to take control. But the conclusion, trusting isn't easy. Wanting to know why certain things happen to good people is confusing. Losing sight on who is controlled can be scary. And not knowing where we're going in life can be dangerous. But God never said it would be easy. But instead, he said that he would be with us forever. Yeah. And we can truly take his word as truth, because when we were yet sinners, he sent his only son to die on the cross for you and for me. All right. Jesus said, and I will pray to the Father, he will give you another helper, and that he may abide with you forever. See, God always has a plan. It might not be your plan. All right. It might not be what you thought the way things are supposed to be. Right. It might not be the way that you want things to be. But God has a plan. The things that we see, God has a plan. So trust in him with all your heart. And lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. And he shall direct your path. So when things start to get dark for us, when things we don't understand, when people are suffering and we can't help, and we wonder why God is allowing those people to suffer and to go through things, know that God has a plan. We must trust him, God, unconditionally. We must recognize that we cannot expect to understand everything on our own. We must recognize that no matter what, God is ultimately in control. And we must recognize that God's direction comes second to none. And once we realize that, we know that God has control of our circumstances. God, I give you my all, because I need you right now in this time of suffering. King David was the best at it. Everything he went through, he acknowledged God. In his wrongs, in his rights, when he was down, when he was up, he ran from his enemies, ran from his son. He acknowledged God in all things, even on his deathbed. We have to do that. It's the same. We have to give God the reins and let him take us home. That's been the word of God. Actually, will you trust in him? Will you release the anxiety that you're going through? If you can't release it, pray to him and ask him to give you the strength to release it. Pray to him and ask him to give you the guidance that you need to deal with it. Because when we're on our own, we're dealing with things on our own, we're going to run amok. Ask him to build in the strength in you to even come to him in the right way. There may be one who does not even know the Father. It's not by accident that you might not know him. Today might be the day he's asking you to come to him. Today might be the day he's telling you to let go. Today might be the day he's telling you, don't worry about anybody else that's in the crowd. Just focus on me. Will you come? Do not let this day pass by without surrendering yourself to the Father. Because no life is guaranteed to us. We're watching right now these hurricanes that are coming in quadruples. This is the most that's happened in the earth's history. God is speaking. Will you come? God is saying that you might not have the answer to what's going on in your life, but I do. I want to help you. Will you come? Don't sit back and think about anybody else that's holding you back. Don't sit back and put the blame on anybody else. Don't sit back and point the finger at anybody else, because it's all about you. Nobody's going to stand in front of God except you. Will you come?
Give me you. Everything else can wait.
Let this song sink in your heart.
Give me you. I hope not too late.
Receive Christ
Just give me you.
as he died on the cross for all of
Lord, give me you.
us. He wants to bless
Give
you.
me you.
Come.
Lord, give me you. Give me you. Everything else can wait.
You to deal